My name is John Kronenberger. I go by Jack. Kronenberger is spelled Kronenberger.
That's a German name?
That's a German name.
Oh.
My father is directly from Germany.
Directly from
Yes,
Germany.
he immigrated to the United States in 1922.
1922.
That's when he came to this country. He was 21 years old. And, of course, Germany was in a very depressed time. Inflation was rampant. And he just wanted to get to the United States and get into the automotive business.
Automotive?
Yeah. And, well, he was a machinist by trade from Germany.
Must be very good.
He was. But in 1922, the auto industry was kind of in an infancy.
Right.
And he wanted to learn how to work on cars. And then he told me many years later, if you ever work with your hands on cars, I'll break your back.
Why is that?
Because he thought I should work at something better than that. And it was interesting, but I took him at heart, and I did not go into the automotive end of the business in any way, shape, or form.
When you born? When you born?
1931. September of 3rd, 1931 in Scranton, Pennsylvania.
Oh. And the school you went?
I went to the St. Mary of the Assumption school. That was a Catholic school. Went 12 years there. And then I went in the military, and then I came back and went to the University of Scranton.
When did you join the military?
I joined the military in November of 1952.
How old were you?
52, I was probably 21.
21. So already when you joined the military, you knew that there was war broke out in Korea.
Yeah.
How did you know that?
Oh, I misunderstood your question.
How did you know that the Korean Peninsula was in the war? Was it through radio or people say or newspaper? How did you?
Newspaper, probably.
Newspaper?
Yeah.
What did people say about the Korean War?
About Korea at that time?
Yeah.
Well, not many people knew about Korea in those days, including myself. And see, when I got out of high school, I tried to enlist in the Navy. And I went through all the testing and so on and so forth. And then I went to New York for my physical, and I was supposed to go right to Great Lakes Naval Station for basic training or boot camp. But unfortunately, the Navy doctors found flat feet and a heart murmur. So I was rejected. So that was probably in 1949. And then in 1952, the Army said, hey, come join us. So the doctors didn't find a heart murmur, and they didn't find any flat feet. So I was inducted into the Army in November 1952.
They didn't care.
I won't say they didn't care. They just, they probably needed bodies, and they didn't, to put it bluntly, they didn't care.
So you enlisted, right?
No, I enlisted. I tried to enlist in the Navy.
But
I was drafted into the Army.
1952.
I was drafted in the Army in 1952. Right.
What were you doing when you were drafted?
I was working for Sears Roebuck and Company.
What?
I was working for Sears Roebuck and Company. And I was working in the Scranton, Pennsylvania store. I had just started there, in fact. And I was just a young kid, and I decided that's what I wanted to do the rest of my life. I wanted to work in retail. And I did. I spent 40 years with Sears. In fact, less than 1,000 feet from here is the store I used to manage. It's no longer there. It was over where the parking garage is now.
So you were about to start your life with the retail business,
Right.
But you were drafted, and you knew that you were going to be dragged into the Korean War.
I knew I was going to be drafted, but I didn't know I was going to go to Korea. All I knew was that you're going to go through basic training, and this is kind of unique too. When we got to our first camp, which was Camp Breckenridge, Kentucky, 3 o'clock in the morning.
For the basic training?
Basic training company. And 3 o'clock in the morning we arrived. They marched us from the train depot down to our new company. The whole group that I was with was put in the day room, which was part of the company. And the first sergeant said, I need 3 volunteers. I need 3 typists. Well, when you go in the military, everybody tells you don't volunteer for anything. Well, we were tired. Another kid with me, he and I went all through school together. I said, Joe, let's volunteer so we get to bed.
You broke the rule.
I broke the rule right off the bat. My mouth has gotten me in more trouble. But this was not trouble because I became a clerk in the supply room.
Nice and clean.
In those days, basic training was 16 weeks. It was winter. I was in the supply room every day. Joe was in the company, office. And so anyhow, we went through all 16 weeks, and it was wonderful. All my friends were out in the mud and the dirt and all this stuff. And then we got orders to go to Korea. Aha. The company commander said, you 3 guys, there was another young man from Indianapolis, Indiana. What the heck was his name? Well, it doesn't matter. Ted Brooks. He said, you 3 guys don't even know which end of the rifle the bullet comes out of. You're gonna go through basic training again.
Oh, boy.
Oh, boy, 16 more weeks of this, but this time we had to really play the game. So we went through 16 more weeks. Well, at the end of those 16 weeks, I've got about, roughly 35 weeks in the Army, and there was an opportunity to go to leadership school. So that was an 8-week course. I said, I'll go to leadership school, and they'll never send me overseas. So I went to leadership school, finished there. There were 104 in that class. 52 went to Europe, and 52 went to the Far East, Korea. The last guy to go to Germany was Harvey Kiltz, K-I-L-T-Z. The first guy on the roster to go to Korea was Kronenberger, John J. And I wanted to go to Europe because my grandparents were still living, who I'd never met. So anyhow, off to Europe off to Korea we're going to go. So we're in Fort Lewis, Washington, waiting for our ship. And I had a tooth bothering me one morning, so I figured, I'll go on sick call. So I went on sick call, got back to the company.
You're trying best not
trying everything I could. But lo and behold, I got back to the company, and there were 6 of us selected to go with about 34 other guys to Japan that night by plane. So I was sectored out and flew to Japan. We flew to Anchorage, Alaska, and then we went to Shimei Island and the Aleutians, and then we went to Tokyo. And we were there for, I don't know anymore, a week maybe.
When did you leave for Japan?
When did I leave?
Yeah.
For Japan?
Yeah.
Let's see, I got to Korea in September. Probably August of '53. And then we went to Sasebo. We got a little boat in Sasebo. We went to Busan. That's where we landed. And we landed in Busan. Well, it had to be in September, but I don't remember the dates anymore. And when I got to Busan, I went over as a infantryman, a rifleman,
So you knew where the building
an MOS 1745. When I got to the replacement company in Busan, I got called to the company commander's office.
Mm-hmm.
Signaled out again. Yes, sir. He says, Private, he said, I see where you were a clerk typist back in the States. I said, yes, sir. He said, you got a nice letter of recommendation in your file here. He said, how would you like to transfer from the infantry to the signal corps? I said, I'm all for it, sir. So I became a signal supply clerk in Busan.
Signal supply clerk means what?
Signal supply, what did that imply? That was everything you can imagine as far as batteries, radios, radio crystals, anything that had to do with signal. And I had every battery you can imagine. And the officers, of course, they had their portable radios, they had their shavers, and other things that they needed batteries for. So they'd come see Sergeant Kronenberger. Sergeant, we need such and such battery. Can you help us out? Yes. Well, what do you need, Sergeant, by the way? I said, I could use some new fatigues or maybe a ham or, whatever you got handy. So we bartered back and forth. But anyhow, the division, the 24th Division left Busan, and we went up and replaced the 45th Division, and I'm embarrassed to say that I don't know where we were other than the fact that we were very close to the DMZ. I cannot remember the city or the town or the area to save my life. It's just gone. And while there, it was very good duty. It was just like a regular job, 5 days a week.
At the time, there was no battle?
Battle?
No battle, right?
No.
No, it's because armistice.
The armistice was July, and I'm talking about probably September. October, yeah. I remember we used to have some red alerts where the North Koreans would cross the DMZ. Mm-hmm. And I'll never forget a young second lieutenant, Lieutenant Titus was his name. I don't know his first name or anything, but the first red alert, he said to me, "What are we supposed to do?" I said, "Just keep doing your job. There isn't a thing we have to do." We had a 50 caliber machine gun in our hut. He said, "Do we have to use that?" I said, "Sir, just take it easy. Everything will be fine." That's the only time we had any kind of problem. Not a problem, but there were several red alerts that we were alerted that the Koreans had crossed the border. And then, very interesting, right next to our supply compound was a company of Turkish soldiers.
Mm-hmm. There you go.
And we did not in any way, shape, or form get them upset because we heard they were kind of nasty people if they wanted to be. It was interesting, and I don't know if anybody else told you this, but you never wanted to pull guard duty on payday night.
What do you mean by that?
Because every tent would have a poker game going on in the front and a little brothel in the back. And of course, these girls were sneaking under the compound fences and so on and so forth. And you just didn't want to make any waves. Just keep guard and keep your nose out of the business. That was just a little aside. Then in October of 54, I got my orders to come back to the United States.
So your service during the Korea wasn't really bad at all?
No, I had a very nice, I had a very, very satisfactory service. The only bad thing was I had to take basic training twice.
Why do you think that you were being singled out so many different times and being in a very fortunate place?
Just because of the letters that I had that the company commanders had put in my file.
Mm-hmm.
And the new company commanders apparently read them, and
So you were well educated. I mean, only three of you at the first boot camp were able to type, right?
yeah. Hmm.
So what was your education?
Education at
yeah,
that time?
Yeah.
High school education.
But how did you learn to type?
Oh, in high school.
Everybody
No,
supposed to learn?
not everybody, but those who took what we called the commercial course, business course, learned how to type. That was a course you had to take.
Was your father particularly strong about the education for you?
Uh, Not too. He really encouraged me over the years to go into the Navy. That's why I applied, or that's why I tried to enlist in the Navy.
How much were you paid in Korea while you were serving there? Remember?
$50, $60 a month. I don't remember now. I know I used to keep like $20, and the rest I was sent back to the States.
Who used that money in the state?
No, my mother and father just put it in the bank for me.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when you returned, there was quite a good amount of
Yeah.
money waiting for you.
Right.
What did you do with that?
Bought a car.
What car?
A Hudson. 1950 Hudson. So as far as exciting things in Korea, the war was over, the armistice was signed, and things were pretty normal.
Have you chanced to look around Korea?
No,
Not at all?
no. Well, I shouldn't say that. We did go to Seoul one time. We did, and Seoul at the time, I always tell the story that the only sidewalks I saw in all of Korea was in Seoul, and it was around the Capitol building. That was it. And I remember the squalor, the shacks that the regular people lived in. It made you think how fortunate you were to be a citizen of the United States, and you're going to go home. I mean, they were wonderful people, but it was just a completely different way of life that we had never been exposed to, ever. So it was an experience, and it's an experience that I think every young man should go through. Not a war, don't misunderstand me, but military service.
Do you think that we have to have a draft system back?
I'd love to see the draft system back.
No.
Absolutely, because it would make young men out of these kids that are going in all different directions.
But young people would object to your idea.
Oh, isn't that a shame? Make them like the idea. They don't have to like the idea. You're going in the military, and that's it. That's it. But we sometimes, we're getting too complacent. We're getting too easy on the kids today. The rules and regulations aren't enforced the way they should be. Now, I went to the dinner the other evening down at the embassy in Washington, and I was at our table. Next to me was the assistant attaché, a nice young lieutenant colonel, very nice young man. And we had a nice chat, very nice chat. He had 2 children. He liked it here in the States. He had 2 more years to serve here in the States. And it's getting back to the draft. It would eliminate a lot of the problems that we have in the country today. It really would. And I don't think we'll ever see it, though.
Right, that's true. Have you been back to Korea?
No.
You want to go back?
No.
Why not?
Well, if I went back, I'd want to take my wife, but she's got physical problems right now, and she would not be able to.
You know what happened to Korea after the war? Economy.
Oh, it's wonderful. It's my oldest daughter, she travels worldwide with her job. And she was in Korea about 2 months ago. That was her first time to Korea. She's always in China or Japan. This was her first trip to Korea. She said, Dad, it's beautiful. It's wonderful. And I said, well, honey, when you come home, I'll show you some pictures of what it was like when I was there. It's magnificent what they've done. I think the people should be commended because they've done a great job.
So do you think that is the legacy of Korean War and Korean War veterans?
Yeah. Do I think it's better? Yeah, I think it's better. And also, I wonder in my own mind, and I chatted with this lieutenant colonel Tuesday night, what's happening with the North? What will happen with the North? Will they ever become a unified China or Korea? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, we're going to be reunited.
You will be reunited?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. Because those people north of the border, I mean, they have nothing. I mean, they have something, but nothing compared to what's south. And they must see that. They must know that's going on.
One of the reasons that I'm doing this interview with the Korean War veterans is going back to where we divided so that we learn how to overcome it.
I see.
And I need your support. The people who fought for the Korean nation and contributed to what Korea is now need to support the idea of reunification.
I would give 100% support to the Korean people of South Korea. And I would encourage the people of South Korea to try to make this happen, try to get North Korea and South Korea united. And as we say, it's got all of my support.
Excellent. Great. You know?
Well, all of my pictures and letters of correspondence to my wife, who was my fiancée at the time, were lost in a house fire at her parents' home.
Oh, my goodness.
So I have nothing that I can share with you.
Sorry to hear that. But anyway, that's what this foundation is doing, to preserve the memories, okay, of your service and educating our young generation. And this is the best way to preserve your memory.
Well, I don't think any nation has ever done what Korea is doing for us as far as remembering is concerned. Second World War, no. Vietnam, no. Nothing is being done as nicely as the Korean folks are doing for us.
You want me to write Jack or John?
Right, John?
John?
Yeah.
How about John Jack?
John Jack is fine.
Okay.
Right. And it's a real pleasure and honor to receive this. Very nice.
Show that to me.
Very nice indeed.